Hey people, welcome back to another video. This will be the part 2 to my last video, which was about basically just transit lines in general, not really crosstowns, but the expansion of transit lines in cities such as New York, which I live in. Well, in today's video, we're basically actually going to talk about the importance of transit lines in the modern day world. Now, we know that transit lines are still theoretically a new thing in terms of the scope of our history, but these days the world is changing very fast, and the trajectory seems like every day is just a new era of the world. If you really know, if you get that reference or statement, you know, basically what I'm saying is today we're seeing much bigger growths in real estate and much more people moving into cities quicker. And I will explain this in another video, this type of growth. But in today's video, we're mainly just going to focus, like I said, on the importance of these transit lines. And a further video to explain my first idea of growth will be explained in a different video. So let's get on with it. So basically, I'm going to use my New York City subway map as this example here. And based on what I've said in my other videos, I've shown you places in New York City where they could add transit lines, all essential places. And it's very important to talk about this because these transit lines are what make the city run, right? These subways are the main source of transportation. I mean, you could make an argument that buses are helpful, but when really getting to the scope of the way people go to work in these big cities, we have to really think about the subway rather than the bus lines. So in New York City, as I talked about, the main line they would need, like I said, is a Queens to Brooklyn line going across Queens and Brooklyn. Like originally, if you ignore my pen marks here of lines, there is a lot of space here, and there's a lot of space here, and a lot of space, open space here, and all these spaces are very dense areas. Queens and Brooklyn are the densest boroughs in New York City, yet they do not have one line going this way. They only have lines going this way from Manhattan, kind of originating here where the densest work areas are, kind of going into Brooklyn, right? But Brooklyn and Queens itself also have their valued commercial areas, and these days both Brooklyn and Queens are having their own building booms where big real estate projects are being made in these two boroughs, meaning these types of transit lines need to exist. And so we're seeing that this is, as I said, this is a common trend. And these transit lines are important because when these big real estate projects are made, people work in these areas. They don't just work in places like Manhattan anymore. They work from home, or they work, in these other office areas. When new types of businesses are made, they're being made in areas where there's space to make these businesses. And right now in New York City, that's Brooklyn and Queens. So these transit lines must be made. And all over the world, there are these big real estate projects being made. In China, there's like their own World Trade Centers being made. I'm trying to just think of examples here. There's a lot of real estate projects being made in Dubai. Dubai has the Burj Khalifa, Dubai Creek Tower. There's Dubai World, which is a new tourist attraction. There's the Dubai Islands, which are still in development. But aside from that, cities like New York City really do need these transit lines. there's a common simple fact that we all know that transit is the way to go in a city like this. Like if there's no means of travel publicly, then there's no economy really, right? So basically, there's a simple point and there's a simple understanding of the importance of these lines. Now, New York must start making these lines. We know in Russia, in Moscow, these lines have already been made. They're cross-town lines or lines that go across these cities because they see the rapid growth. In New York City, there is rapid growth, but they are not making these lines. If they were to, there could be even more real estate projects going up and more potential for a better economy. And overall, poverty levels could wane. And in a way, it's kind of weird that I'm be making these videos because it is a very simple idea. The real complications come from what land and what real estate is really being owned in these areas. Basically, people aren't working together. Now, the city making these transit lines is very expensive, and a city budget may not account for what's happening here, but these types of transit lines will bring jobs, and we have the tracks already laid down to admit these lines to grow a city like New York and a lot of American cities and a lot of cities in other places like London, Paris, not Moscow, but London, Paris, Madrid, definitely. I'm just going over a few cities that I've really studied transit lines for. There's many more you could say. I'm kind of on this rant where I'm thinking as I go, but these cities could really grow much faster. Creating more jobs is very important for a city. But the city itself has to take initiative itself to make those jobs come to it. When you make a business, you have to take the risks first. The city has to make its own business. The city has to attract the customers who are the business people. People want to start businesses, go into the city. The city's customers are the people who live in it and the people who work in it. And that is why if the city does not take the risks to make these transit lines and these transportation lines, they will not get the economy they need to continue growing. So basically, that's the whole point. This is the importance of transit lines today, especially in a world where real estate is booming everywhere, where people are seeing visions of big real estate projects based on population growth and educational growth and how we're reforming different systems in these matters. And it's just creating a whole flurry of things. It's a cycle of development. But these other types of development that really keep these developments together are not being added onto. Transit's not being added onto. We're seeing real estate like Hudson Yards down here in 34th Street, right here, being developed, but we aren't seeing the root, the drive of these real estate projects be developed. And that type of toll may have a big effect in 20 or 30 years. That may seem far away, but that's pretty close by. So although this is a simple idea, it's something that does need to be discussed in this booming world of real estate and economics. If you enjoyed this rant, then please make sure to like and subscribe, because today's video was sponsored by you liking and subscribing to my channel. Every subscription gets out a new video for you to enjoy for free. Just hit the subscribe button and like. Bye.